time over here now.
It's 5 o'clock in the most powerful city in the world. It's time for the Guy Benson Show Happy Hour, brought to you by the Finnish Long Drink. Finland's most popular alcoholic beverage has come to America. Visit thelongdrink.com. And now, here's your host, Guy Benson.
It's the happy hour here on the Guy Benson Show, our final hour of 3 here on the Tuesday edition of the program. We're very glad that you're listening. Thank you for that. GuyBensonShow.com is our website. Podcast always free of charge, on demand when the show ends in just about 1 hour. That's GuyBensonShow.com or FoxNewsPodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts. This radio hour is brought to you by the Finnish Long Drink. We love it here. Big fans. Please drink responsibly, of course. It's an alcoholic beverage for those of you 21 plus only. TheLongDrink.com is their website. Find out more there. Order online. Find out where they're sold near you, etc. TheLongDrink.com. With us now is Kennedy, host of Kennedy Saves the World, a great podcast at FoxNewsPodcast.com. You can follow her at Kennedy Nation on social media. She is our very own Fox News cultural icon. Kennedy, great to have you here.
From one cultural icon to another, Guy. Great to be with you.
I don't know about that. Fact check. All right, so I want to talk about Los Angeles. We've actually had you on here multiple times this year to talk about the fires and the destruction of various neighborhoods in your area, and your home, of course, is there. Our audience knows that. Now we're seeing destruction of another sort, unfortunately not totally unfamiliar when it comes to Southern California and politics and this type of rioting over the course of decades, including in some recent years. As you watch these scenes night after night, day after day on your TV screen, on your social media feed, what goes through your mind?
What goes through my mind is California is a horribly run place, and this is what happens when bad politicians get into power and they do not use their power for good. They use it for their own enrichment, their own political ambitions, and they have no problem watching a city burn once again in a totally different way, just months after so much of it was decimated. And then Maxine Waters has the nards to say, oh, there's no violence, you guys, this is great.
Carl DeMaio is an assemblyman, a Republican from the San Diego area. He's been on this show before. He and many others are pointing out that not only are political leaders on the Democratic side failing on multiple fronts, whether it's the fires and now these riots, the riots and the unrest is actually being funded by California taxpayers. Here's what he said at the California State Capitol yesterday in Cut 13.
In February, when I was still on the Budget Committee, I raised concerns about 73 left-wing organizations that were receiving taxpayer funds, state taxpayer funds, for a COVID-19 project that completely wasteful. One of those groups was the Coalition for Immigrant what do they call themselves? Humane Rights of Los Angeles, CHIRLA. This is one of the many groups on the ground in LA that has received state taxpayer funding to organize violent protests against law enforcement.
Attorney Laura Powell on social media pointing out Kennedy, quote, if you're a Californian, the current LA riots are an example of your tax dollars hard at work. The Coalition for Humane Immigrant Rights, so that's exactly what Assemblyman DeMaio is referring to, is one of the key players in fomenting the violent response to immigration enforcement actions. It's an LA-based nonprofit with a history of taking radical positions on immigration. For example, it led a 2018 campaign to abolish ICE. It currently leads the LA Rapid Response Network, which gathers intel about enforcement actions and deploys activists to respond. These are the people who are attacking ICE officers and doxing them. And apparently California taxpayers are funding groups like this. So it's almost like the left-wing chaos perpetuates itself and gets other people to pay for it, whether they like it or not.
Yeah, if there's a market for it and they want to go raise money, that's one thing. But, if you're a California taxpayer and there's no water coming out of the fire hydrant and there is not enough equipment to battle a couple different blazes going on concurrently, yet there's money to fund people giving out tactical gear. So agitators who I don't think they're very political at all. I think they're either paid actors or these are people, who are just Antifa rollovers who just go from one crisis to the next because they like to burn stuff. I do think that they're just these mental invalids who happen to be firebugs. And, it's like, are these the people you want in charge? Are these the people you want making decisions? Do you think that these are the people who are going to do a bang-up job staffing your schools and keeping you safe? They don't want safety. They want unrest. They love the smell of burning police cars and burning tires, like Gwen Walls. People who do care are leaving the state in droves. And, the Babylon Bee had a heartbreakingly hysterical video today about, welcome to California. And it shows, the poop map and the homeless camps and, camping is free. And, that's kind of what they're trying to sell. But at the same time, you look at it, you're like, taxes are really high. Look at what your taxes are going to. Look at what your taxes are not going to.
Right.
Why would anyone want to stay there?
Right. Californians voted last year to reimpose criminal penalties for crimes, right? They had sort of decriminalized crime in a lot of ways, and Californians overwhelmingly said, all right, we have to reverse this. It's a disaster. And the politicians are saying, well, that's nice, but we can't really afford to implement it. And yet they can afford, apparently, to funnel taxpayer money to groups like this that are committing crimes and rioting in the streets and attacking ICE officers. So once again, the priorities in California, and this is a model of governance for the entire left-wing and Democratic Party across the country, the priorities speak for themselves and speak very poorly of that so-called leadership out in that state. Meanwhile, Kennedy, Becky Pringle, who is like the Randy Weingarten counterpart, she is the leader of the NEA, the largest teachers union in the country. She's getting in on the act because this is what they do. I know Randy Weingarten is helping to lead and organize some giant day of resistance on June 14th. Becky Pringle's getting in front of crowds, shrieking into microphones. Here's what she said in one of these resistance rallies in full throat, cut 21.
We the people! We the people! We the people! Yes! All of us have that right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of justice!
It's actually not the pursuit of justice, it's the pursuit of happiness. But, number one, that is the top teachers union boss in the country who sounds like a mentally ill person screaming into a microphone. And what she's screaming, Kennedy, is we the people, we the people, we the people. What comes next in the Constitution after those words? It's of the United States. And when we're talking about immigration enforcement, we the people, that phrase does not include criminal illegal aliens. And yet, apparently, that is a point or a nuance lost on people like Becky Pringle, whose entire job is to protect a monopoly when it comes to the education of kids.
Yes, and for communists like that, all they want is more warm bodies so their unions can get more money. That's all they want. That's all they want is what they did and how they built the federal government out of hundreds of billions of dollars during COVID. They don't care about outcomes. They do not care if people are educated, if people are happy. That's why she can't bring herself to use the word happiness. And when you don't have freedom of association and freedom of movement in your own city, that is an injustice. And if there are people who wish to do great harm, who are given no consequences or accountability at all, that is also injustice. That's the opposite of what she claims to be lobbying for. But, because they're loud, they are somehow seen as the concentration of intelligence in their movement when, it's like there are a lot of really frustrated parents right now because they're scared to death to send their kids to school because they're worried that this stuff is going to bleed into other cities, as it has in San Francisco, Portland, Chicago, probably Minneapolis. And, what happens when they do start hijacking vehicles? What happens? It's like, and why do you think it's going to end here?
Oh, it doesn't. I mean, we've seen, for example, a lot of people on the hard left cheering some vigilante murderer who allegedly shot a CEO in the back in the middle of the street in Manhattan, right? We see the people who cheer on a terrorist organization in Hamas with these giant hate rallies across the country. They firebomb the police. They firebomb Tesla dealerships. They firebomb Jews. I mean, we've got this hard left ideology where violence is a feature, not a bug, and it's something that they indulge in and engage in across the board. I mean, you were sort of touching on this before, Kennedy. It's almost as if the cause doesn't really matter. If it's part of the unicause on the hard left, violence is the answer. And there are people spoiling for a fight all the time, eager, willing, and able to get violent. And a lot of the people who are running the Democratic Party just sort of look at their feet and twiddle their thumbs and say, well, golly gee, we don't love violence, but didn't Trump do this to us?
No, at some point, this is a local reaction. You can talk about the larger picture and the system, which is clearly broken and residents are frustrated, or you can talk about the immediate reaction. The immediate reaction is a failure of government on the local and state level. And, it's like we saw the same thing at UCLA during the protest there when Karen Bass didn't want to activate the LAPD. And, it's like her past speaks for itself. Her trips to less than free countries, shall we say.
Oh, I mean, she used to be kind of like an open communist, right? That was something that in her youth, but not like she was an adult. She was an open commie. And here she is as the mayor of Los Angeles. That's the choice that the voters made. And I get the sense that many of those voters are having major, major buyer's remorse and second thoughts about her. But elections have consequences, and boy, are the consequences biting hard in Los Angeles across multiple fronts. Kennedy, I do want to quickly turn to Elon Musk and Donald Trump and what was the biggest story almost in the world late last week. We've all moved on to other things already. That's the warp speed news cycle that we experience all the time. But still, that crack up between the president and this multi-billionaire tech mogul, Doge father, all of that, that is potentially a massive story and dynamic that could have impact for months or years to come. What's your read on it?
I was really hoping that, the philosophical shift and realizing the need for cost cutting would prevail. And I worry that it won't, because you have forces that are so much stronger in Washington that really only want to increase spending. Consequences be damned. And, a big part of it is the House of Representatives, where people run for office every 2 years. So they're just chasing votes every other year. And so, they'll vote yes for anything that funds a pet project. But, the ramifications of that in every single district are unserviceable debt that is going to chew up so much of the budget that it doesn't matter who's in power. They're going to have no choice but to raise taxes, especially on the middle class.
Kennedy is host of Kennedy Saves the World, her podcast at foxnewspodcast.com. Follow her on social media. She's great at Kennedy Nation. We always appreciate you swinging by, Kennedy. We'll talk soon.
Thank you, Guy.
You bet.
You are the best thing on the radio.
What the hell is wrong with you?